Word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes as well as entering spoiler territory. If you aren't caught up with us yet, that would be through chapter 29 of Jade War by Fonda Lee, the second installment of the Greenbone Saga, the critically acclaimed urban fantasy series that has concluded with Jade Legacy. Pick up the hardcover today at your local bookstore or not. I don't know. I wanted to keep rambling, but I don't have anything else to really say. I right now I'm just kind of holding Crossland hostage. I can see him squirming, and I know he wants to say something or cut me something, and he's not going to.
It's filibuster. A second word to the wise here. This week's reading touches on some potentially triggering subjects, and specifically in chapter 27, there is a discussion of sexual assault. We, during our discussion of this chapter, will do our absolute best to broach this subject with the care it deserves. But we wanted to drop a little heads up to all you lovely listeners out there.
Hey there, this is Cross.
And I'm PJ, and I'm also going to continue this filibuster and not let any of the other co-hosts.
I hope this doesn't happen the whole episode.
I'm Ben.
I'm Aaron.
And I am Thomas.
And apparently we're NPR, and we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club. I think I'm just going to start saying it faster each time until I can't, try to get through it in one breath. So,
yeah,
we're gonna speed it up. Yeah,
I think that counts as training, right?
It might count as training.
Breath control.
It might count as training. Yeah, Wim Hof method, but talking out loud. How's everyone doing today?
Good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us on.
Yep.
Yeah, we almost didn't invite you back after last week, but
yeah.
What happened last week?
Man,
I don't know.
You guys hated on Hilo too much. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'll be hating this week, I'll tell you.
A lot of hate this week.
A lot of hate this week? Is that what you said?
No,
well, we got our boy Barrow back, so.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Our boy is back. But today, of course, as PJ had mentioned in his long rambly beginning, is the 4th episode of Jade War, and we're going to be talking about chapters 22 through 29. But before we get too much further, PJ, I would love it if you could talk through your cocktail.
So I had plans to create a cocktail that was actually going to be the same as what I did on the Frugal Wizard short pour. That's Brandon Sanderson's second secret project, and we just recorded that one, and I knew, damn it, I've got the ingredients for that, so let's do it. And I used my last lime in that, so I didn't have those ingredients, so I just made a lemon drop, 1.5 ounces of vodka, 1/2 ounce of triple sec, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and 1 ounce of lemon juice, or 1.5 ounces of lemon juice. I don't know what the proper ratios are. I think this is probably going to be a little bit too sweet with 1.5 ounces, especially considering I do the rich simple syrup, so I can keep it out of the fridge at 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. So it's going to be sweet. I know that, but I haven't tasted it yet. I guess I can do that now.
It's a nice glass.
Looks pretty.
It is
beautiful,
sweet, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Tastes like a lemon drop candy, straight up. So I don't know if that's the intention of this drink.
Send one my way. John's been making lemon drops. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Overall, not disappointed with it.
I like a lemon drop shot. Good one.
I think it's a very similar recipe, right?
It's the same to me.
Anyway, Ben and Aaron, what are you guys having?
We're both drinking beer. I'm drinking Brad AF by City Barrel Brewing.
I am drinking, I took a picture of it.
The local brewery.
21st Amendment Brewery. Brew free or die, bitch.
What?
Wow. It's a blood orange IPA. It's brewed with blood oranges, it says.
Wow.
It tastes very good.
You're almost done with it.
What's the 21st Amendment? Is that the one where it's like everybody can vote now?
If you don't know, I don't know. Ask Thomas.
That's the 15th. The 21st is the, oh my God.
History guy. 21st Amendment.
I don't know.
Come on, Thomas.
I do know. Oh, that was the unbanning of alcohol. Sorry, that was really loud.
Oh, yeah.
That was the suspension of the,
That makes sense.
The end of prohibition.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Jeez.
Let's
Glad
celebrate
that flash
it.
hit my brain.
Which one? 21st?
21st, yeah.
And you're 21 to drink. Easy to
Correct.
remember.
Wow, yeah.
Wow. How about
I
that?
will remember it that way from now on for approximately 1 week before it exits my brain.
How about
Gotta
them
make
apples?
room.
Speaking of apples, I
Oh,
am
no.
drinking a hard cider from a local cidery, I guess you call them.
Yeah.
Awestruck, made with, of course, the finest apples anywhere in the world. New York
How
State
about them
apples.
apples?
Finest apples anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the
Really?
world, yep. All grown in the great state of New York. And, it's pretty good.
The Honeycrisp disagrees with you a little bit, but that's fine.
We grow them here.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's delicious. Let me tell you something, though. 312 calories, add a line. Too many calories. So I'll be
Ciders
having
are
one.
outrageously caloric. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very, very fair.
How about you?
I am having a textbook Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. It's literally called Textbook, and it does taste exactly like a middle-of-the-road Cab Sauv. It is precisely as billed, and I'm only disappointed that I feel like I paid more than textbook price for this wine, but that's fine. Nice label, good wine. Yeah,
Coolish
solid.
bottle.
Excited. It's a pretty cool bottle. The logo's pretty neat. Simple enough, but
I've got a back half beer. It is Fluffhead by Block 15 Brewing. It's a really pretty can. I have not yet opened it, but it's a
Looks
hazy
like-
IPA. So
Looks like a sour candy, kind of, the can.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's like a lollipop, but it's a
Warhead.
mountain landscape with a waterfall inside of a mouth.
cool. All right. Well, before we get going too far here, I would love to hear what you guys' thoughts were on this week's reading. What'd you think? Given it's only been like 3 days since last time we talked, but
I had some ups and I had some downs.
A lot of revelations. Reveling themselves.
Revealing?
I preferred reveling.
Yeah, this felt like a building tension week.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot, not a whole lot of significant action happens. There's just a lot of setup. There's some minor action and some big reveals and things as stated.
There was a
but
big release in that first chapter.
I was going to say.
Hey, now.
Big release.
that's
I was
that's a
waiting
good
for
point.
PJ to stop talking to say there was a climax. You're going to need to cut us out. We're the triple X.
No, we love it.
No.
I believe.
We thought you guys were afraid of the lewd jokes that we made, and so we cut ourselves
It was
out.
a little
which
bit
is the
premature
problem.
climax, though, if we're being
Yeah.
honest.
First timer.
It's a little
That's
fast.
Can you blame him?
No, not at all. I mean,
All right.
Oh,
Quick and dirty, just like Andon. With that,
More like
let's
Corey.
get into chapter 22. Corey, yeah, you're right. Corey, that's it. Good point. Chapter 22, The Grudge Hall. So back in Port Massey, we return to Andon having joined Koru's relay ball team and generally building himself something of a home in this Greenbone community. Later, we visit the Grudge Hall, an underground Greenbone gambling den underneath their community center. After a brief exchange with a pair of police officers, Andon is surprised when Corey advances on him. This is the longest chapter of the week. I think it's the longest chapter of the book so far. It's very big, encompasses a ton of things. But yeah, I guess there's a lot to talk about. But relay ball is kind of the start of this whole thing. What do you guys think of the presentation of sports on the other continent of Hispania?
I didn't have too much of a thought about it. I was kind of interested by the other names. I forgot what they were, but they named
Rockets,
off
I think.
3 or 4 sports.
Mhm.
And I was like, wonder
It's
what
kind
that
of
is.
like, it reminds me of a rec league where everyone's playing to have fun, and Corey makes a point of when there's people get heated, and he's like, hey, this is all,
He said, I'm a chill bro, and we're all chill bros here.
yeah, we're just chilling, we're just having fun. Rec league, this isn't for keeps. Which is fun. It's not, there's no
And in opposition to his Kekanese nature
yes, yeah,
or
very modern.
race.
I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting they trusted that the people with hidden under belly button
Jade to not jade themselves.
to not use a little lightness
Jade out.
here and there.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I actually have a bone to pick about this. So,
Okay.
you know,
A green bone?
they're playing a competitive sport, right? It's a contact sport. Belly button, you're like, you know, when you're playing sports, your shirt comes up sometimes. I feel like,
Or you wipe your face.
yeah, I feel like it's pretty
he's
remarkable
tucked in.
that after months and months of intense athletic feats and competition, Andon's never seen Corey's stomach.
That is because
I mean,
it hasn't yet been revealed, but relay ball uniforms are jumpsuits.
I was gonna say, what if
They're
the
rompers.
style is like the 50s, high waisty pants?
He's also probably like consciously hiding it, which would make some sense, but
Yeah,
Hmm.
since it's illegal, you
I
don't
could
want
see-
the
yeah.
peepers to see.
I did see another world where that's the revelations during a game of relay ball. It like his shirt rides up and then Andon finally figures it out.
There are a couple of like other small things that get dropped throughout here too. Slang that we start picking up on, calling people crumbs, and specifically referring to Andon occasionally as crumb. Got toppers, right? That's toppers, and among some other things that kind of just ingratiate us in this sort of society and understand that it is very different. It is more chill, bro, of an atmosphere than KCON is for sure. As far
I
as
was
we're aware.
totally going to call you guys crumbs at the beginning of the episode, but absolutely just forgot to. So
I was going to call you guys hoes at the beginning of the episode, but totally forgot to.
Oh.
Oh.
You're a hoe.
But we do make it to the. Oh, go ahead.
We said "but" at the same time. It was fun.
Do we say but?
But this is why, to Thomas's point, if you're gonna have a secret piercing, why isn't it a Prince Albert?
Okay.
True.
That was my
Yep.
bet. What
still
was your
could have
bet?
revealed it to Andon at the same time, potentially.
Hey, no.
If things went a little bit differently.
And only like 3% differently.
Right.
Wouldn't be a massive change. Yeah, totally. We do eventually make it to the Grudge Hall, of course, and there's gambling on cockfights and a number of other things that are going on there. But then there are also two different duels, a genuine seeming clean-bladed duel, and then something that feels more reminiscent of like two friends wrestling, which I think it's fun to see kind of this juxtaposition. I don't know what you guys think of the Grudge Hall.
I was disappointed about the cockfighting because that is very much animal abuse.
Didn't love it either.
Didn't love it. I'm kind of thinking the cockfighting is the cover up for their actual duels, clean blades. So maybe like they're not into cockfighting either, but they want the Espenians to think of them as like country folk.
Yeah. I feel like we would have heard more about cockfighting on KCON had that been like actually a major part of their culture. But we're also in
There
like
was
a
some
major
cockfighting.
city, modernized city, as opposed to like on the outskirts. I don't know.
In Jade City, when the No-Peat comes down from the mountain to strike at the Mountain Clan, we go to Gaunt Ash's point of view, and he is like at a
A cockfight.
cockfighting bar and also has like prized fighting cocks.
Cox.
So it is an
Very
intrinsic part of
Gaunt
their
Ash,
culture for
yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Don't love it.
Definitely. Yeah.
But Aaron,
Yeah,
to your point, I do think there is some of that cover up going on for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it totally bears that signal, especially given, the way that we see the rest of it play out.
Yeah, because they're so far removed from their roots in other ways that like it does make sense that they're like playing the cockfighting up to cover the rest of it.
Like, why else would you have a ring if you're not biting?
Right.
True.
That makes total sense, and I'm with you. It's sad to see. I think the cover up works well, but what I found the most interesting about this section of this story is kind of the counterpoint to when Shay goes and visits Andon after her time in Espenia and is like remarking on how polite the crowds are at the sporting event when she's watching him play relay ball, as opposed to the Espenian. And now we get Andon on the other side at a sporting event, different type of sporting event, in the crowd, remarking on how grossly like enamored and loud the crowds are. I thought that was a fun side by side. I mean, it's books apart, or a book apart, but still kind of.
I think he was mostly upset because it was a farce. Like it was like they were play dueling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are definitely elements of both of that, right? Where it's like, why are you like making a mockery of something that's super serious? And like, you just saw something kind of semi-serious go down, you know? But then at the same time, it is very evocative of what Shay was describing in a different context of like, they cheer for very different reasons.
Yeah. There's also the shade that he throws. Of these are fifth years, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I was thinking, like, if he just put on his little bracelet, he could throw down.
Yeah, I know. If he put on, like, probably one stone, people, he could probably rock them all.
It reminded me immediately of, like, WWE. Like, it was much more of a showmanship kind of game, especially in the way that they made it intentionally more dramatic to sort of play it up, versus the first duel of which was kind of, like, just a bad duel is the way that it looked. But the second one had that sort of... I said wrestling and like not professional wrestling, of course, but had that sort of element to it.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Ben would know.
The call out, all of it was drama.
Mm-hmm. Even more than
professional wrestling at the end of the day.
Thank you. As it should be. We should embrace it more. To me, it was very reminiscent of that, of course, but it was more reminiscent of like when you go to your friend's house and they have a trampoline or a pool and you're recreating the WWE moments.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
That's fair.
Child's play.
That's fair. So we quickly figure out that the difficulty of last week has been handled, of course, but then we also find out shortly thereafter that the police have entered and that they are coming down the stairs very quickly. There's a lot of kind of reaction going on. He, decides to sit down the boys of whom we're just about to leave. They're about to drive off to make sure that they don't stir or cause a scene. What do you guys make of the police scene, the bribe, and everything else there?
The biggest thing I wanted to point out was, I'm going to call him the Horn. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Ro?
Yeah. Oh. Him standing up and like putting on gloves and sitting in the corner, like ahead of when the police actually come downstairs. Like this dude knows how to make a scene go away if it needs to. I was really excited for something to go down.
Was that the dad? Or I thought that was his fist. That like went...
It's his horn.
He goes and stands by the door.
Andon says that he's like come to refer to him as the Horn of South Trap, but he doesn't like have a title like that.
He was the one at dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I liked the acting by the wife. I can't remember their names either.
Sana or something.
They're the Dauk family.
Sana.
Yeah, Dauk Sana.
And, I was going to say, I think lots of women have used their acting skills to get out of tickets. So I personally have. So I thought.
I'm talking about the lawyer one.
Huh?
That was just truth. That wasn't
nothing.
The murder one? What did you say?
The lawyer one.
No. This I get pulled over and I didn't know my tags were expired. My dad sends me those tags. Oh, tell your dad to send them. Okay, thanks. Thanks for telling me.
I'm 35 years old.
She was like, no, that wasn't
that was last year, Ben.
But the way she was like playing up, like, being overly concerned, wringing her hands, like, showing her big brown eyes. I don't know.
Your big brown eyes? Is that what you said?
Her big brown eyes.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I don't know what color her eyes are. I'm just saying. Batting her eyelashes. Like, she knew that was her job, was to go sweet talk and be all nervous and not show any like I don't know, arguing with the cops. Yeah.
She was like running interference, I feel like. She's just like all over the place. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it was all an act. She knew what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's done it every time.
I agree with you.
And the whole crowd officers knows what to do. Like this whole crowd acts like a collective, like a clan. They really act like a clan in a different way than the really sort of structured sense that we've seen from KCON, but they're a very tight-knit community and just immediately passing around a hat, collecting an extra 400 units of currency on top of the fine.
Failures, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
a
got
church
my point
group.
across.
Units. Yeah.
I'll get it at some point. I'll remember.
It's fascinating too the way that they treat the different ages, and that does get down to Dauxana's acting in that moment, and I think that that's really kind of what seals the deal. And it also goes back to last week where we got the comparison of like, oh, she's the weatherman. Like I can see that already, and this is very much weathermanly behavior to manage that side and like make sure that everyone's contributing to solve the problem. It was clever.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. All right, so now we get to the hot and heavy of this week. Corey, we've got a lot to talk about with Corey John here, and I kind of moved this all into one question so that we could just kind of talk about him on the whole as we see him over the course of the week. But now that we've spent more time with him, what do you think between the sexual encounter, his Jade, his interaction even with Tommy at the Grudge Hall? What do we think of Corey?
Do we think that Andon's still pissing and moaning about being in Espinia after this?
Well, he's definitely moaning.
Oh, got him.
Sweet baby Thomas.
Not quite piss coming out of there.
Oh my god.
I think that
PJ, I was
Andon
mid-sip.
is having a great time.
Exactly. He should be thanking his entire family now. I think that Andon's gonna fall in love, and Corey seems like a great guy, very cool, very chill, whatever. Clearly very experienced. Gonna break the fuck out of this boy's heart. I mean, it's just...
He's pulling ladies onto his lap.
It's gonna be a problem. There's gonna be a problem. Andon's gonna fall in love in like 2 weeks.
If not already.
And then...
Corey knows the way to a guy's heart.
He's going to see Corey making out with somebody else, and he's just going to go grab a piece of jade and explode him or something.
Death blow.
That's right. This really is the villain origin story, is what you're suggesting.
This is a problem for Andon, big time.
Yeah,
I think.
Or for Corey.
Well, I mean, Corey is fine. Corey's being Corey. Corey's doing his thing. Corey's a cool, chill bro.
Handing out
We've talked about this.
BJs.
Yeah,
He's in his hoe era.
yeah, he's fine. He's. I just don't think Andon is ready for that or mature enough to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody think that this isn't strictly friendly, to say it that way? Like, does
Do you mean
anybody
it's, like,
think that there's
politically
ulterior
motivated?
motives to this?
I didn't get the vibe.
I didn't get that vibe either.
I didn't get that vibe either, but thinking about it, I could see it. I could see him knowing who Andon is because his dad knows who Andon is.
He did
And
seem
later
surprised.
on, he talks about knowing that he trained at the academy and knows that he was part of the Call family. Like, could be a grab for power in some way. Long game.
Or
At the
his
very
dad was
right down the
like,
pants.
his dad was
PJ.
like, hey, get close to him.
Wasn't Corey surprised though when his dad said that? His dad was like, "This guy's here from No Peak," and Corey's like, "What? Oh, okay."
That was,
Yeah,
months
but that
ago.
was
Now he's
months
had time
ago.
to steam.
Yeah.
PJ,
Yeah.
when we learn of Andon's sexual orientation, his cousin, I believe, warns him that there could be men looking to use him for his position in the clan.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, he does.
Is PJ cooking?
But you were stirring that conspiracy pot.
I didn't personally get that vibe when
I
I,
don't
was
think that-
reading, though.
Corey has ambitions like that. That's why
He's just like a California surfer dude.
he's a cool, chill bro.
He didn't wear shoes.
I got the
Yeah.
stoner vibe, kind of. Maybe a little
Big
fuckboy
time.
energy from him, but
Yeah,
Lawyer
Mhm.
stoner, which is the weirdest combination
Well,
I've
he's
ever
like
read.
a reluctant. He doesn't want to be a lawyer.
Yeah. That's fair.
His stupid sister is, though.
I have a point to bring up that I can't believe none of you have acknowledged yet. Our guy Andon is apparently hot. This is our first inclination of this. Corey says he looks like he walked out of a magazine. God bless. Like, good looks for our guy Andon. Literally.
Or maybe he was sweet talking.
yeah. I
feel like Corey would definitely sweet talk.
Yeah.
Corey would sweet talk, but at the same time, yeah.
He has no shortage of options,
Yeah.
right? So, like, why would
That's
he
true.
not pick out the hot
Right.
kid?
He blow smoke. Yeah, he did say he was just
The,
sexy.
The the hot, gloomy kid.
Yeah,
Who wouldn't want to?
that's true.
Give me the sad one.
Fruity ones.
Let me fix him up.
Give me the sad one. I'll change him. I can fix him. It'll be fine. Yeah, and it also, we get that brief flash, and we do kind of know that he's attractive because of the friend that like attacked him, that was like really into him, the girlfriend that was like really into him on boat day before his abduction way back when. But so we know that we knew at the very least that he was attractive. Now it's like, oh, you're like a hottie with a body. Why did I say that? I don't know. Cool, I'm done.
Where do you think Andon would wear his jade if he were to go green?
Something like super lame. Something just super conservative.
Yeah.
Behind his knees.
What?
As piercings.
What? Like hidden jade, or if he was on
completely
tape
hide it. Yeah.
He would just
No, I think either way he'd hide it.
normal jade. I feel like
He'd probably wear something he could take off in case
wrists
he has
and earrings and that kind of thing. Nothing
Goth
special.
bracelet.
Yeah, goth
like
bracelet.
spiked.
2 of them.
Yeah. Studded belt, but like
with the
the punk kind. Yeah.
the pump kind. Seatbelt also maybe.
A seatbelt. Yeah. Love it.
Is Andon going to build his sexual personality around Roadhead now?
Like you can only do it in the car.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Rapho.
All right, I'll take that.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
Good word.
And that brings us intrepidly to chapter 23, Scrap Pickers. We cut to Barrow, now a supervisor of an illicit jade picking operation, and at least slightly more in control of his ill-gotten jade powers. He and Moot argue about whether the job is worth their time, only to be interrupted by approaching mountain greenbones. Barrow and Moot flee, leaving many of their workers behind, but are captured by now Suinzen and several of the fingers before ultimately being released to deliver a message back to Soradio.
I would be very, very content if the pinnacle that Barrow achieves is middle management.
I like that take.
I love Soradio's name, for the record. I think it sounds so great. Saying it is fun.
Now Sue is a good name too.
Yeah.
The full thing throws me off a little bit, but now Sue I like. It's
now
like
Swinzen. Yeah.
Swinzen.
Yeah.
There's an interesting tidbit right off the bat that we learn that lightness and strength are easiest for novice, or at least seems to be the new green at least, to control because they are cued by physical actions.
That just makes good sense.
And I kick and I stretch because I'm 50.
What?
What is that from? I genuinely don't know.
It's Molly Shannon. SNL.
Right. Like a particular skit?
Just kicking.
Okay.
I feel like Steel,
I've seen that
you could argue would fall into that category as well.
It seems like you're just trying to do the weird
You're like
flex thing. You're just like,
clenching.
But apparently not. Well, I mean, you learn there's like the interesting mobility associated with steel, like being able to position it and focus it and stuff like that. But the base level.
Yeah.
And then when you kill people, you just point at them. That seems pretty straightforward.
Think really hard.
If you're Andon, yeah.
Pew, 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 pew.
If I could do that, I would like totally just fuck with people all the time. I'd just always do the finger guns. Just be like, pew, 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 pew.
Are green bones allowed to do finger guns?
We need to know.
Why not?
Because they'll kill people.
I wonder, like, if they're expecting it, could they? We're going down a rabbit hole. Let's climb our way back up. Again, early on, we did a nice little reminder if we needed one, which I don't think we did personally, but maybe some did. Barrow, evil guy, right? Him and his boy Moot tried to channel into a dog to kill it in order to test their abilities.
Curse this man.
I think you had some thoughts.
Good riddance on him getting bitten after the attempt. Fuck that.
Deserved it, assuredly. Hope it gets infected and he dies. Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be something.
Good on that dog. Take revenge.
Seek vengeance.
Oh,
can dogs
Your family
wear jade?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, they could wear it. It just wouldn't work.
I wonder though what if it does anything. I don't know,
we are
living
tangent
animal.
central today.
It's not good.
Listen, we got a little bit of Jade lore, and now we're spiraling. We want to know more.
If the Kekanese are the only bloodline in humans, then I doubt that it has evolutionary branched to animals.
Into animals. Fine, fair. Good call.
Unless you feed him SN1 also.
We're putting you in the corner. Time out.
Time out. I'm going to go take care of my dogs who are now barking.
Oh, well.
Dags.
Did you try to channel into them? That would explain a lot.
He's going to go get bit.
Or put Jade on them.
So the opening of this chapter is sort of framed around the Barrow, kind of ruminating while the Jade pitchers are doing their business. And so we did a kind of a flashback to the previous summer and how him and Moot had started down this path. And there's an interesting quote that's just business as usual for Barrow that I wanted to highlight. Last summer, Barrow and Moot had been brought into a room in a disused gym along with a couple of other new rotfish initiates. In front of Soradeo and each man pricked his bottom lip with a clean knife and kissed a slip of parchment paper with his name written on it. The papers were held together over a candle, burning their wet blood and sealing their pledges of loyalty and silence to T. Pasuida. Barrow pretended to take it seriously, but he smirked to himself. They were acting like kids joining a secret club, even though they were only here to get money and Jade, same as what everyone wanted. Nothing secret or special about that.
I got an idea on this guy. I think there was some level of sleight of hand between when they handed in their pieces of paper with their blood and names on it and when the paper got burnt. I think somebody has a large stack of blood and names and it's going to be somehow used against them.
Do you think they're up to DNA yet?
Or blood magic? I don't know. One of the two.
Maybe it's just straight up McCarthyism. In my hand, I have a list of 50 enlisted rotfish.
That's a decent impression, actually.
Thank you.
I was going to say that I thought this was pretty good from Barrow. Fuck these guys. This is a dumb secret club that they're trying to make special, and it's not.
But you can tell he's getting smarter because he's playing along.
He understands the underworld now.
He's learning how to not be a dumbass right from the start.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He's made enough mistakes.
Is that endearing you to him at all?
It's helping.
I mean, it's making him more tolerable to be around. That's for sure.
Yeah. Trying to kill dogs, still not a good move.
Yeah, because he doesn't love dags.
Dags. Good Snatch reference.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, though, Ben. I thought, for once, he kind of saw to the heart of the matter and saw that it was all just bullshit.
They're trying to be cool, like they're in some Jade clan, but they're not.
I just so badly want there to be a bigger conspiracy going on that he's going to get pinned down because of.
I had a couple thoughts, but that's perhaps for a later chapter. What do we think about the way Zapunio, through his representatives, is carrying out his operation? It's pretty sophisticated. We got the plan of bringing in the Yuian workers, the local supervisors, all that kind of tangled web.
Well, I thought Ponda Lee did a good job of introducing us to Zapunio first, and then we meet Soradeo. So it's we meet this new group of people in memorable ways. So you can see the pyramid with Barrow at the bottom. I don't think that Zapunio's operation. There's certain parts of it that don't seem sophisticated because it seems they could obviously be shut down, like the mining. But then you see the buttons on the fake clothes or the under the ice thing. And it's okay, he's getting sneaky. So
yeah, I do think some of the later chapter stuff bled into my rationale with that question because we do see the buttons that's pretty hardcore. And then all the other little wrinkles of how they go about the smuggling.
Mm-hmm. It definitely, throughout all of this, solidifies that sort of inkling that we had, or that impression that we had last section of Zapunio kind of being a stand-in for like a Central American, South American like drug lord, and kind of being modeled off of that.
I definitely think so. I think there's also something about this chapter that I really appreciated, which is that we really see one of Fonda's biggest strengths here. This world is just so incredibly huge and dense with all of these interactions, and she does a very good job of like telling us about just enough and then showing us the right ones. So there's a good balance of show and tell, just because there would simply be way too much if you wrote this out. You'd have more words than Brandon Sanderson has written in the Stormlight Archive so far to do the same sort of storytelling. So I think she's got a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And memorable characters.
Oh, without a doubt. Like Barrow.
Fucking Barrow.
Fucking Barrow.
Another interesting tidbit we learn is that on this job, at least, Moot has killed, and Barrow hasn't yet.
Barrow shot the graveyard guy.
Yeah, he did. Right?
No, Barrow shot him.
Barrow shot him.
Barrow shot him. Oh, that's right. Moot
hit
crashed him with the rock. Yeah.
And then Barrow gave him a pew, pew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, little baby Moot, he's a killer now too.
He ain't afraid.
Not afraid.
He's got thick blood.
I really can't wait till he just tries to go up against the Makes and they like flick him away. Like,
it is so. Ben, we get to the argument with Moot and Barrow, and Moot's like, why are we doing this? We should be training so we can take down the Makes. And he's like, we got a little money, we got a little bit, we can move on. And Barrow's like, we need Jade. What do you mean? And I was just kind of like, Moot, you don't think it'd be a good idea to get more Jade to take down the Makes?
Vengeance never fulfills your whole grief hole.
Mm-hmm.
Grief hole.
Makes it worse, right?
Hashtag.
Hashtag grief hole.
Not glory hole.
Who's interested in glory hole?
Hashtag grief hole is a glory hole.
Yes.
Hashtag glory hole. Hashtag grief hole.
Wow.
Hashtag anded.
They are right next to each other, so you've got to be careful.
Hashtag moving on. Seeing this sort of, Barrow, not the best partner, right? He has lasted longer with Moot than others, it seems. But
you can't use lasted longer after we just talked about Corey. Anyway.
No pun intended. Here's the thing.
12
A lot of arguing. Earlier, we get Barrow, not the most favorable thoughts on Moot. Curious if you guys have any inkling about how this partnership ends, if you think seeds are being sown now, or no thoughts.
I can see Barrow throwing Moot under the bus and getting Moot killed.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like he's going to get frustrated with him at one point and just like Jade Fevery snap on him. And Moot's going to kick the can at that point.
Either kick the can or turncoat, snitch on him.
I just don't think you can partner with Barrow and make it out alive.
That's fair.
Barrow is kind of enemy number one for everyone around him.
It does seem that way. Or at least threat number one, or should be. Mm-hmm. And then within that argument, we get the first sort of look of Barrow and perception going on. And it's interesting to see just how weak his perception is in comparison to a seasoned Greenbone, but it does still exist, and it tips him off. Maybe, not super well, but it does tip him off. And then the Greenbones rush in, and we did a very short but stunning display of Greenbone action, Greenbone abilities here.
Why can't somebody just kill Barrow? Like, I still don't understand why they let him go.
Send in a message, Ben.
Right. Like, you can't send a message with a dead body?
Or like all the dead bodies?
Yeah.
Where they already killed everybody?
Like, what message did he deliver exactly?
Or kill Barrow and then
I guess he sent the message that they wanted to like meet up with Zapunia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do business.
They could have written a note or like spelled shit out with the bodies. I don't know.
Somebody fucking kill this guy, please.
Yeah.
Could have just let this one kid's like lipping off to you, talking about how he has Kalan's Jade. Just kill that one and let the other one who's like younger. And you could be like, maybe we can forgive him. He got led astray by this guy. Let that one go and be the messenger. But nope, we need them both for some reason. Thanks now, Sue.
But now Swenzen could see that they were wearing nice jade.
And that they believed it that they were wearing.
They weren't lying because he can almost read minds. I thought that was cool. And he's like, you believe you have Lan's jade? And he's like, you know, you're going to wish I killed you. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. It felt short-sighted to me a little bit. Like, it still seems like he's dismissing it. Like, you believe this is Lan's, but doesn't Barrow say something like he took it off of Lan's grave or off his body, like, personally, and he believes that also? Like, it
so
feels like he's
though.
being dismissed.
He is being dismissed because it's like so unbelievable that this little rat could take down one of the most powerful men in the country. But I think now Swenzen, I have to say his whole name, is maybe considering that he could use that info to like trade with the makes later on. Like, well, you're looking for this guy. This kid said he had it. He works for Zapunio.
I like that read. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Be like, you know, tricky situation. He's like, hey, hold up. Got a little piece of info in my back pocket. I think the last thing I had for this chapter was, obviously, as we've touched on, now ultimately makes the decision to let Moot and Barrow go in order to have them deliver a message to Soradeo for him. I wonder what we think his plan is.
Soradeo.
Soradeo.
I love saying his name. Soradeo. Even sounds a little South American, Central American.
I don't know what the plan is.
Just when you put that twang on it.
Yeah.
I'm in the dark. He's an enigma. He and Zapunio both to a certain degree.
Do we so far? I remember, you know, we were maybe Ald is overstating it, but we were sort of impressed by Gaunt Ash, you know, notably badass. Do we have a similar experience with Now thus far or no?
Now is like skeezy, slippery. He's scary in a different way.
Okay.
Probably more scary. Harder to predict.
It is interesting to have a Horn who is like so perceptive he can almost read minds. Like the heightened, like perception makes you think like intellect, maybe not the case, but just like that heightened perception on a Horn, it seems interesting and it is alarming.
Yes, I figured he'd be up to more by now.
Maybe he is up to more.
Maybe in the second half of the book he will come to do more, but I figured.
But we historically don't really know what's going on in the mountain.
That's true. But we did get some Gaunt Ash, like POVs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just feel like we would have gotten more from him and made him into a scarier figure in a kind of like formidable Gaunt Ash type of way, but different because his thing is perception. But I don't know. Maybe that's coming at this point, but I would have expected to see more of that by now.
It could also be sort of the counterpoint to Shay's groundwork that she's done with the Espenian government. This is the mountain's way of creating pre-approved avenues for jade distribution for whenever things loosen up within the KJA.
Okay.
Just pre-building infrastructure.
So once it becomes legitimate, like they have a pre-built way to kind of get under tariffs and taxes, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just not having to actively build alliances and trade agreements with specific countries. Just being able to already go through the established routes.
Okay, man. Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. All right. With that, we go into chapter 24, The Inheritance. We start with Shay sharing a quick conversation with Hilo about what happened in Libon last week and how close she already is with Rue. We then move to The Inheritance, a vessel owned by shipping giant Ven Sondolon, the owner of K-Star Freight and a mountain greenbone. We proceed with a conspiratorial conversation in which Hilo convinces Ven to assist in a plan to undermine and replace Ait Mara. So crazy fucking chapter. I love the title. It works on so many different levels. It's one of my favorite that we've read so far, being that like we've got the literal inheritance with like inheriting Rue as like a family member, or sorry, not Rue, Nico as a family member, which I realized I said Rue inside of my summary. I meant Nico, but we inherit Nico as a family member. We have Rue. And so there's like the future is staring us down. And then on the other side of that, we also have the inheritance, literally the name of the ship, as well as the inheritance in question of the Mountain Clan in the long term. You know, there's a lot of different
one more that
sauce.
Unless I missed you say it, which is possible, that then San wants to give it to his son. He wants his son to set his son up as pillars. So like his inheritor is the presumptive pillar.
Yeah.
Just layers on layers.
Very sneaky. I like that we get on a couple boats this week.
We do get on some boats for very different reasons.
We can discuss this maybe next week's Devil Trot or something, but I'm afraid of boats anyway. Let's keep it going.
Ooh, okay. All right. Taking it down.
Also on boats.
All boats or just like
we'll
dark
get
water?
into it. We'll get into it.
We'll talk about fears next week. There we go.
Like that.
All right, cool. But so we also get to talk about Nico again and what's been done now that he's returned to the family, as well as Shay's grudging acceptance of Hilo's decision to kill Amy. What do you guys think of the way that played out as far as that conversation goes?
Disappointed in Shay. I expected better.
What did you expect?
I expected her to like bitch him out at least.
How she probably has.
I don't know about that.
Can she? Talking to the pillar?
I think she could. She's capable of it, and she has previously. She does for Maro at the end of the chapter, or at the end of this week, right? Or later this week, rather.
I think she makes her opinion known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is some flashback and some like description of conversation that they have a little bit. Hilo's argument does not hold up to any scrutiny.
I'm interested, but the quote, of course, at the very end of this section, this little bit is, "Would you rather I'd given Nico up?" When Shay failed to answer, he leaned back in his seat. That's what I thought. And I'm curious as to why you think that is little merit.
Because the answer isn't all or nothing. It's not a binary. It could have been, like we discussed before, we'd love to have him and like host him for the summers. Teach him what it means to be a call and what his father was like without murdering his parents and kidnapping him.
But she was trying to sneak away and never be found again. So it was kind of...
Am I the only one that's like, that's a pretty easy decision? Like, you should just let it go?
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's
definitely a thing.
To us,
let
that's
her keep
obviously
the kid.
a thing. Yeah. But like, doesn't
do you want a baby?
So, I mean, obviously, Shay and Hilo often very diametrically opposed, and she, even despite her acceptance of it, still understands that it goes against the divine virtues and prays for Hilo's soul, basically, because of this. But doesn't the fact that the argument works on Shay kind of like give it some credence?
Does it work though?
He's like, I don't know. It just makes me. That's why I said I was disappointed in Shay. It makes her like almost complicit in the entire situation.
But what's she supposed to do now? The kid.
Well, now
his
I know
parents are murdered, and she didn't know what he was going to do.
You should have an easy answer to that one. That should be yes. You should have given it up. It's his mom.
Yeah.
Like.
Right. My thought is that they've had this combo a bunch and she's resigned now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. That wasn't how I was interpreting it, but I get that.
I would like to say that I'm surprised that Hilo told her that he killed her.
Yeah, I am kind of too.
Like, I don't know. That was really honest of him, I guess. Because that makes me think he doesn't think it's as bad as we all think it is. He's like, yeah, what? She was sneaking away. I killed her. What?
Unless Shay were to, on her own, send a letter saying like, hey, we've got your son. I don't know what's going on, but we'd love for you to come be reunited. Sent to the house.
She just never hear back.
In the scene of the crime where somebody could intercept the letter. I don't know.
PJ, mail fraud's illegal. They would never open that.
We don't know that law. We don't know
is
if
it
that's
illegal in Stepping Land? Right.
I don't know. I agree. it's kind of damning that Shay hasn't been more vocal about it, but also what's done's been done, and there's not much that can be done about it now other than just condemnation.
Yeah. Kind of a bummer.
I'd like to echo, I think, maybe everybody last week when we said we wish we got Wen's reaction to Hilo coming home with the baby, explaining the story to her. Would just be a nice little tidbit, a nice little counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a wish this could be different. Hopping to Shay and kind of some of the religious aspects that you brought up a little bit here, Thomas, I really wanted to highlight that despite everything, and even the fact that Shay in the first book says that she isn't religious, she has been going consistently to the temple to pray and is now adding Annie to the list of people that she's praying for one way or another. And I think that that's interesting, especially considering her difficult history with religion over the past.
It's very Catholic.
A lot of Catholic guilt. I read a lot of Catholic guilt in this. I'm so
but,
glad
praying
you brought
people
it up.
into heaven and for their souls.
Very true.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets us to the boat, right? It's also time to finally highlight some proper no-peak schemes, truly get set up here. We're introduced to Ven Haku in addition to Ven Sondalon, as I've mentioned, to be set up as the new man of the mountain and the new pillar, and just like, holy shit, the way this conversation goes and unfolds between the group, it's just excellent.
I like the
Love
wordplay, man of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Godfather. I don't know.
Yeah, this was good, some good stuff.
Mhm.
This is a good plan. Good plan.
I feel like, though, these families,
They're probably not up for it.
well, Hilo doesn't think they're up for it, but I think they might all get murdered. Like, No Peak's putting these families all in danger.
Yeah.
Oh no, he fell down the stairs.
Did we also notice
Suspiciously.
that Mr. Big Stuff with the yacht has a gold watch with Jade? I think that might pop a balloon. But
Oh, believe you me, I'm super excited to talk about that bet this week. I've been waiting for a rationale to pick at that one literally since you made the bet of Gold and Jade physically not being able to be mixed. Whew, I'm excited.
Who made that
Matter of
bet?
fact, let's just do it now.
I think all of us.
Did I make that?
All right,
bet?
I think we were all
I think
into
it's
that
time to finally pay off the Lon debt. So PJ doubled down and said Lon is wearing Gold and Jade, and that's why he died. Ben also agreed Lon is wearing Gold and Jade, and Aaron said kryptonite, like the jade, is poisoned, and so like there was something wrong with the jade.
I don't know if
and I
we
think we've
know.
confirmed.
I don't know if we know.
I think. I'll give you your. I don't. You can protect yourself.
How?
I'll hear your argument.
Yeah, okay. Let's hear the
That's my
argument.
argument.
There's no argument
I
there.
don't know if we know.
Barrow and Moot have been wearing this jade successfully.
They seem pretty.
They've been wearing
Months
it for
and
like
months.
a year. Yeah.
Well, they're not wearing all of it, and they split it up between the two of them.
Okay.
Who knows if they grabbed the poison
I
jade?
think
They
with
just
the
grabbed.
all of the
context
jade in there.
of with the
No,
context
they
of like
only
Hilo,
one
they
side of
didn't-
it.
Listen to me. With the context of Hilo's injuries and like his recovery and him having to take shine, plus the situation where you have like Barrow and Moot wearing the jade.
But
I don't think
they
there's
didn't get
anything-
all of the jade. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'll do,
They only got
Aaron. I've
one
already
liner
agreed
panel.
to do this.
They
I've
know
already
the
agreed to
answer.
do this
Mhm.
once before, but I'm gonna ask for the drink now. And if you're wrong, I will drink twice.
You mean if I'm right?
Just because
Well,
we're gonna
if
pay it
you're
off.
wrong.
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean-
drink twice.
I'm going to drink for the golden jade thing, but I'm
Oh
going
no,
to
PJ, you're messed up.
go back
What?
and like
Mhm.
double down on the fact that some of Lon's jade was still poisoned. I still think there was something
You're
fucked up
hopping
about
in
it.
Now
on
he's
the
having
poison.
my scheme.
I already believed it to begin with.
All right, well, you better drink.
Ben, drink.
I need you both.
Everyone.
This is when
Aaron,
I
you
need
also
the
have to drink.
non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah,
This is why
all right.
the non-alcoholic spirits exist.
Now we've all switched the team to kryptonite.
Barrow
You're
made
super
a
excited
point
the last
of
week of our
lamenting
show.
that he couldn't grab all of the jade from the grave.
My bad. Hill memory box isn't what it used to be.
Interesting. Okay. But back to the man in question, Ven Sandalon, and sort of the scheme that's going on in the background. Was there any other notes in the conversations that you thought of? The one thing that I definitely wanted to mention too, and I didn't tuck it into either of the descriptions or any of the questions that I wrote, but the Coben family as well, they found out that they couldn't buy him despite trying and like giving him a full ride and everything else to switch schools as this 9-year-old. And then on top of that the Weatherman's family was also unpurchasable. So
I thought it was hilarious how psyched Vin Haku was to jump on this plan like immediately. And everybody was like, whoa.
You can tell he's been gossiping. He had it all.
My guy was
ready to go.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how casual he was about discussing essentially treason and like not even feigning bringing up the dire nature of the situation and how fucked he would be if this conversation got out.
He just thinks he's untouchable because his business is so big.
Yeah.
But I feel like he will be murdered.
Also, who the fuck has the gall to name their yacht the Inheritance?
Brilliant. An idiot, an absolute idiot. Yes, this is your inheritance, son. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great little scene. Really love it. Really appreciated it on this read through in particular. So we exit there, and of course they walk out of the dock, and the deal is basically...
Before we leave that scene, there's another interesting part that we neglected to bring up, I think, and that is how the boy club atmosphere of it all, and how Shay feels like she's being neglected and how she's being shut out and ignored. And I think that's just an important thing to highlight. And it seems sort of like, she is worried that Hilo forgot she was there, and she remarks about like the ease at which the men were able to build camaraderie like that. And I just thought, important to shout out.
Yeah, that gave me Wolf of Wall Street vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the yacht guy was already proven to be sexist when he's like, a childless woman should not be pillar.
Oh, very true. There was that whole exchange. How did I forget to note that? Good call. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's definitely not a good guy or a smart guy.
He's like, it's okay that you're weatherman because you report to a man.
Mm-hmm.
So Hilo jumped on that like, I know how to talk to these guys.
Right. That's
man to man.
That was the vibe I got, and I was curious if it was stood out to anybody else, but like, was Hilo sort of playing the role and playing it up to this guy, or was he actually suckered into it?
No, I think he was playing a role.
Yeah. And I think the conversation in the car afterwards and the sort of the change in atmosphere and the change in temperament of Hilo immediately after they're out of earshot gave me that, strengthened that read on it. It was entirely a let's play to this guy's preconceived notions and get him on board in the least resistive way possible. But for sure, like, sucks for Shay in the moment, but hopefully she understood that a little bit afterwards as they're like going back to the childhood bickering of like him putting his shoes on her feet in the car, and I don't know.
Yeah. It's a strong scene all around, and that's a great point. I can't believe I totally neglected to mention that, because it does get back to his core theory of why he thinks that this is okay and why he's maybe not throwing the sort of fuss because he's a, dickhead, sexist dickhead at this point. Mm-hmm. But we move to the car and to the dock scene again, and Hilo, to quote here, Hilo threw an arm over his sister's shoulder. His mood had changed completely from the earlier dark car ride, and the easy friendliness he'd shown to the men on the boat had vanished. His lopsided smile was bright and feral. And this is one of the lines in this entire series that is just like stuck with me. I don't know what it is about this, the like lopsided smile and sort of that animalistic instinct that I've just really enjoyed about remembering Hilo through. Love it. Mm-hmm. So, had to bring it up. And woof, what a whole move to undermine the mountain in this way. I think it's speaking to the games that we're playing and how dramatically we've grown over the almost 2 to 3 years at this point We can actually use basically Nico as a timer to some degree for the story's age, but roughly 2 years-ish of time.
Hopefully
and I'm
it
sure
sticks.
the mountain is doing some of their own scheming.
Schemes on schemes on schemes. Scheme war.
Siri picked that up for some reason, which is great. Yeah, schemes everywhere. Schemes all the way down.
And from Inheritance, we go into chapter 25, Interception. We did a Mate 10 chapter, one of my favorite things in the world. This time, we see up close and personal No Pete's efforts to bring an end to Zapunyo's jade smuggling operations as they storm a merchant vessel carrying smuggled jade. After a brief skirmish with some jade-wearing half-bones, Ken and his crew take control of the vessel and locate the stolen jade, diverting the ship back to Titan for a more thorough inspection.
This
Some
had
sweet
like
naval action, just from like
secret
an action
mission.
movie, Michael Bay style point of view, like just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This was very much which Captain America movie is it where he gets on the boat too? Yeah, Winter
Mhm.
Soldier.
You mean when he's
That
holding
is kind of
the
like that, yeah.
helicopter
Did he have
in
a
the side of the
parachute?
ship?
Something like that. don't
I
know.
remember that scene.
That's the third one.
We know. That's not the scene I'm talking about.
No, you're talking about the one like he just jumps out of the helicarrier and they're like, was he wearing
He's
a parachute?
holding the helicopter and the ship.
Right.
And
That's a
he's
different one,
flexing.
Aaron. That's a different scene.
We're not talking about that scene, Aaron.
Wait, that's the only scene.
There are other scenes.
There are other scenes in the movie.
I don't think so.
They're not even
That's
the
the
same movie.
So in this scene, the captain of the ship was worried initially that they might have been pirates. And how fucking cool would it be to have jade-studded pirates?
We'd love it.
Now we're talking.
We would love it.
That's a book
I would love
read.
it.
The pirate without missing an eye from Pirates of the Caribbean, and instead of the like gross wooden eye, it's a jade eye. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
hard
good
as
stuff.
fuck.
That'd be awesome.
That's really good stuff.
But additionally, I wonder if there's any way to like amplify a jade aura or a jade perception in any way, like being able to scan almost like radar
Oh, it's so
or like close range radar of all of the ships in the area and see which one have green bones on them, so you know which ones to like check out.
Mhm.
That'd be pretty
Would that
cool.
be like mechanical or chemical? But the opposite of shine, maybe.
Just need more green.
Just to
More-
and in there.
Yeah, I guess it would have to be like
Point him at it.
really loading somebody up with jade.
Wait a minute, hear me
and
out.
Dosing them with enough of SN1 to like be able to bear it. But
What if we put shine, or not shine, we put jade on dolphins? They use
dolphin
the
jade, there we
dolphin
go.
jade. Like the
Again.
Navy uses
Sonar, like jade sonar
the
would
dolphins
be so
doing their
dope.
secret missions. Maybe we get some seals. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens there. An interesting tidbit I thought was that Ken is, at least to his reckoning, the first Horn maybe ever to hijack a ship in international waters. Just kind of speaks to, we're in a whole new era, modernization, global Jade War, perhaps. Very interesting.
That was a pretty cool like notch on the belt for old mate Ken.
Yep. And showing him as the Horn as a leader
Mm-hmm.
on his own mission.
Doing a good job there, buddy.
Yeah, and Aaron, to your point, like we do see him, he's developing as a Horn. We see that he's, his realization that his chief responsibility is managing and developing his people. And I think that's just like a great look for him. It really does show that it's not just the military part of him that's coming into his own. He really has grown and is proving to be a very capable Horn. And then also, like, it's kind of reminiscent of Hilo in the first book, the deftness with which he notes Ian's desire to earn more jade and his mental note to give her the opportunity to earn more.
I think N here is in kind of a unique scenario compared to what we've been exposed to so far, because he's removed from the Call family directly. So he doesn't have the preconceived like expectations of Call Sen bearing down upon him. And like he's able to be an effective Horn, but forge his own path. And I think that's really important in this stage of warfare and in this stage of the world where things are changing very, very rapidly. And he's like, he knows the traditions, but he's not as beholden to them as I think Hilo would have been if he was still Horn in this position.
It's also, I think, partially due because now Hilo is Pillar. So there's not that same expectation. Like, instead of having a Pillar trying to tear down his every move or make sure he's not surpassed, he has someone who's like actively putting trust in him and also trying to build him up.
Yeah.
Which I think is a stark contrast to Call Sen and to even Lan in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly to Ken's development, we also see our guy, Lot Jin. He's developing, competent man acting as like a translator. We also learn Espenian language study becoming very common on K-Con. But what do we think that Lot Jin's ultimate fate is here?
I've got a couple of things on this.
Okay.
So we learn that Lot Jin is learning the Espenian language in high school or whatever. Can we not?
Oh, I know we talked about this last week.
Exactly.
I see your shit in grin. So the whole point was that I knew that it was coming, A, and B, it went to the other side of the argument that we made, which was because he hates his heritage. So like Andon hates his heritage.
But do we think Lot Jin knows about the dueling customs in Espenia? I'm just saying.
Probably.
What are you implying?
Well, we were arguing. I was saying last week, like,
Andon's
why
dumbass.
didn't Andon learn anything about this in high school? I feel like that's something he would have learned.
Oh.
And I'm thinking that.
And they were classmates.
Yeah, this guy's.
So maybe Andon is stupid.
Ben, I have a question for you.
In
In high school, what language did you take?
Spanish.
Spanish.
Okay. And do you know every law in Spain?
No.
Do you know every law in Mexico?
Oh my God.
I don't.
I would burn you down.
There's a difference in language.
Do you know the penalty
study
for fighting?
and
For
government.
assault?
Yeah.
We live in a society.
Damn, he got me. He
jokered you.
I have been
Right
got,
back.
in this moment.
No, I think that's
It's literally
fair.
me.
I was just saying, like, I feel like something important like that, if we had some kind of like thing where you're not supposed to be doing something that you do often in the United States, and you're not supposed to be doing it in Mexico, like drinking the water, let's
Yeah.
say.
I feel like
No
Shay would have
offense
been
to our
like, hey,
friends in
man.
Mexico, but that's the thing that I know.
Mhm.
So
I feel like Shay would have been like, hey, don't fight people.
exactly.
They're
That's
not
all I'm saying.
about
I
it.
just feel like maybe there's been some education on that. Otherwise, let's talk about Lot Jin and not why I'm right all the time. Lucky with you guys. All right.
It was a great correct, and I knew that you were right, which is why if we had a video version of this podcast, you would just see me like light up with a smile of like, I know this is coming.
I did not know it was coming.
Let's see. Yeah. What do we think
knew
his
exactly what
ultimate
I was
fate
saying.
is? I think we've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure I have a bet riding on it, but this just really feels like a tragic death just coming down the pipe. Like a wasteful, tragic, like, yeah, this guy could have done something else.
I
And
see few,
but he's part of the clan, and the clan is ultimately going to get him killed, and then it does. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
I see it as whatever happens to Lot Jin, it will impact Andon in some way.
Oh, Andon's moved on. He's getting his D.
No, but I
Best.
think
He's getting
either-
toppers off.
him coming back and seeing how high Lot Jin has succeeded in the clan, and because he already showed some like jealousy or
That's a good
mixed
point.
feelings.
Actually, I like that. Yeah,
when Lot Jin was the first to take oaths.
yeah. He's gonna see him back, and he's like, "Wow, he's a fist. I should be a."
And
fucking-
yeah, he kind of sees wherever Lot Jin is where he should have been if he weren't.
And then he puts his
scared
shade
of
back on and turns
Jade.
into a monster.
Yep.
Like it.
Pretty good.
I dig it. We do have predictions there, by the way. So they are there. Aaron, if you want to update yours, you are welcome to. You said run off to Espenia with Andon by the end of the book.
I take that back.
Ben, you said sticking around for family, going to get killed tragically in this book, which totally lines up with your current theory. So
Yes.
I figure you're in the clear.
Did I say anything about him?
Convinces Andon to come back to become green again actively.
Yep.
Verbally, specifically orally.
Yep.
Wow. That's what you had me right.
As long as it's in a car,
I'm gonna
it
stick
should
with
be
it.
okay.
As long as it's in a car. Oh, no.
We know that Andon loves an oral argument, so
I know.
All right.
All right. 2 more things here from me. And then if anyone has anything burning, feel free. Get it off your chest. Our guy Ken's going to get married. Love that for him.
good job, mate.
He
Ken.
has to ask permission.
He
Already
does.
did, I think.
Both her and the pillar. And then the discovery of the smuggled jade, the cleverness in which it's being moved, and also Ian's, no, she's the only one that notices double barcode, something's fishy there, and then they're able to find out, the buttons are jade. Aaron, I think you had
Pretty
something
cool.
for that.
I said it already. I think in the
Okay.
last chapter.
Mhm.
I think that the mining didn't seem very covert,
Mhm.
but that, the buttons and then the starting to bury thing under frozen fish or whatever. That's pretty sneaky.
Very sneaky, very well managed.
Why not make the shirts still real shirts? So then
Yeah,
they could
that's what I
still
wanted
make
to
money
bring up.
off of the shirts without buttons.
That does seem a little
Who-
incomplete.
Double up your
Who
investment.
produces shirts that don't open? How would you even go about doing that?
Like, why not
That
just
feels more
get
complicated.
real shirts and then switch the buttons out?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's expensive.
how
Maybe
is it
they-
more expensive?
They
I
intercept
bought a
them
shirt in
before.
40 years.
Here's the thing, right? We got a separate factory, one factory. They're sewing the shirts. The other factory, they're slicing the shirts down the middle.
That's not
They
how you
intercept
sew.
them en route.
And putting the buttons on them.
That's not how you
Slice the
sew.
shirt
Yeah.
and then they put the button on.
They intercept them en route. And they sew the buttons,
Probably-
the jade buttons on themselves.
It's the best reason I've heard.
I mean, I would think it'd be easier instead of even altering any shirts. Button-up shirts sometimes come with a little extra button sewn to the tag of the shirt. Just sew a jade button to every tag of every shirt.
But the button on the tag has to match the buttons on the shirt
Who's
because that's the
who's
replacement button.
looking, folding it inside out and looking at the.
Aaron's
Nah,
genuinely
get the
correct
fuck
there,
outta
though.
here.
That is how you replace your buttons after you replace the.
No, I
couple
know
buttons
that's
that you're
why
missing.
they're
Okay,
there,
just
but-
double checking.
Okay, you can have a regular
I've done
button
it
there
before.
too. Just put a jade button in also.
I disagree. I think that they should be real shirts, though.
It would be pretty dope to have one slide through the cracks and get on a retail shelf somewhere and somebody just buys a dope shirt with green buttons,
And then
no idea that they're jade,
just
and then
immediately dies.
accidentally wears it inside out one time and then gets superpowers.
And then
like-
immediately the itches and just dies. They go up
Jeez,
to heaven. They're like, I was a god once.
Temporarily, briefly. All right. With that, we get into chapter 26, Setting Expectations. Shay's schemes pay off for the destruction of the mountain's shine-producing facilities in Egoton. Shay also has a conversation with Woon about getting in too far with the Espenians and the inherent dangers therein. After we see Maro meet the Pillar and his wife for dinner at Shay's, where there are some uncomfortable conversations that occur. We end the chapter discovering an expose on Shay has been published in the Janloon Daily. Huge. No more shine for the mountain. Do we feel like Woon is right about the Espenians on the whole?
Woon is always right.
Moon is always right.
I do think that maybe we're getting a little too in bed with the Espenians, but I don't think they have better options at the same time.
We're playing all angles.
I know, so they kind of have to. So I don't think it's I do think it's something to be aware of, and Woon is right. We probably should we should be pumping the brakes a little bit, or at least head on a swivel with the situation with the Espenians. But they also have kind of made their bed already and kind of have to go down that route, so they don't have better options.
I don't think Woon's right about everything. He wasn't right about his love choice,
He's got a new babe now.
apparently.
New babe just dropped.
Yeah. And guess who's jealous?
He moved.
Shay.
He moved on real fast.
Shay is jealous. That's actually, that is a fun bit that does come from this whole bit. Is that there's a little bit of, I said bit so many times, but like, why didn't you tell me? Which is
Hilarious.
Fun note.
I didn't necessarily see it as jealousy, but
just a little bit though.
I saw
I
it
don't
more
think
as
it's-
like
no, I don't-
realization that what they've gone through was like actively hurt their relationship.
Yeah, I agree with
And
PJ.
it
I
was
don't think
more
it's
of, like-
jealousy.
Astute.
Yeah.
I think it's like I thought Woon was my friend, but I
Mhm.
guess we're not friends.
I'm jealous.
I took it as like
no, I
mourning,
don't think he's
the-
jealous. Shut up.
like the inherent trust that they had where there were no secrets before. And now like the fact that there's any secrets is what she's mourning.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shut up, Ben.
I don't know.
But
I feel
there's
like there was a
Unlike
little bit
Woon.
of like,
jealousy.
I feel like there was a little bit of like when you tell somebody you don't like them and then they're like, fine, okay, I don't like you either. And then they go off and actually like find someone else. And you're like, huh, maybe I do like them.
There's also that like immediately getting married aspect to it too
Yeah.
that I think Shay dials in on and is like,
Talk about a rebound.
Yeah.
Unlike Woon, you are not right about everything, Ben.
Eddie, we've hit on Woon in a good way. It seems like you guys are more in on Woon now. Or are we less in? More
Always
in?
been
Still
on
sus?
in on Woon.
I was still
Sure, you
out
did
on
turn
Woon until
past this.
Hami Tumashan became a little prick. Then I was like,
Yeah.
well, they can't both be
Tommy's
bad.
out of control.
So,
We'll get to
We
it.
definitely have to talk about Hami in the next
Yeah.
chapter.
so
I'm excited to
Hami,
get there for
Hami
sure.
being a turncoat made me think Woon can't be bad too. So now
Mhm.
I
Should have trusted him.
give up on my Woon suspicions.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
PJ?
I
Running
think
out the wound.
Woon trying to resign was kind of my turning point for Woon. Like
That
he
mean
let something personal
Great point.
get under his skin enough that like it meant that he was actually emotionally invested in this family to begin with, and like that proved it for me, even though he like she didn't accept his resignation, but like the fact that he was able, willing, and actively tried to remove himself from the situation was enough proof that his intentions were pure.
that sounds like to
Jesus
me
Christ.
is proof that you and Aaron are drinking.
It is. It is proof that you are drinking this week. We appreciate you endlessly, but I think I really appreciate the turn because I was having a tough time even stomaching the theories. I got more tweets about you guys disliking Woon as much as you did that I have about anything else in this book.
I've been burned, man.
Yeah, it's A-okay. It was just very funny. People did
trust
not
everyone.
expect the Woon Puppy Danwa train.
Let me tell you
I
something.
didn't hate him. I couldn't
streets-
couldn't blindly trust him.
The streets were
Yeah,
up in
it's
arms
okay.
about it. They were aflame. They were outraged. And you know what they were saying? Ben is always right.
Thank you.
Looks like Thomas
Their
is pulling
words,
a
not
Corey.
mine.
Thomas has become public enemy number one.
I didn't
I
hear
didn't do
me.
anything.
I don't think he heard you.
I did
yeah.
not. I heard a Thomas something Corey.
I said, sounds like Thomas is pulling a Corey. You're sucking Ben's dick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for putting it out there.
I like how it took when you say it literally.
First of all,
I mean, I heard it, but I got it immediately.
here's a question for you, Aaron. What's wrong with a couple of bros sending positive vibes to one another, showing appreciation? I thought we were anti-toxic
You're-
masculinity here.
You're directly going against what I just said about how Ben is not always right. It's not
I
about
know.
bros. It's about you not being with the hoes.
Wow.
Ooh, got him.
That's deep.
So-
that got me.
We go to. Thomas was injured. Aggressive.
I was touching my heart because it got my heart.
Yeah.
Tugged my
He is
heartstrings.
I
also
know.
injured.
Yeah.
I am.
Tore an ACL right there in the moment. No, so obviously, again, no more Shine. I'm glad that we went back to Woon after I tried to talk about the Shine production, but hey, no more economic impact. That's neat. Okay, cool. Moving on. Maro at dinner is a whole fucking basket of worms to untangle as this conversation seems to go well until it does not. And you start to see him actively dig his own grave in front of Hilo, and it is so fucking unbearably stressful to watch happen, and especially to listen to, because the audiobook narrator does such a good job accelerating the way that he talks here.
I think as a PhD smart person, he should know the culture better.
Gotta have better tact.
Like, he should know
How to read
that
a fucking room.
Yeah.
he should know that clan leaders are not going to share his liberal belief.
Do you think he got lulled into like a false sense of security by the fact that Shay is a leader of this clan and he's able to speak like this with her? And maybe
I think so.
Doesn't expect him to face any sort of backlash. Like maybe Shay didn't do enough to like prep him for this meeting.
Yeah, she clearly didn't. She should have been like, okay, like, when you bring someone home to your own parents, like, don't talk about politics. Step number 1. Everyone knows that.
I think he's just a nerd and he got excited. You know what I mean? Like, I do that sometimes as with my history stuff. Like, I'll just get reeling and going. I also think, Hilo can turn the charm on, right? We know that. So Maro is probably feeling very comfortable. I talked about this with Shay, like you guys said. Hilo's my boy now. He just got a little loosey-goosey.
I do think Hilo disarmed him a little bit. And I do think he got a little loosey-goosey. I would agree with that. But also, I expect better.
It was very reminiscent of, a different context, but Lore's just getting none of the signals when Amy's trying to shut him up. Like, when divs him out, Shay divs him out, he's like, that's interesting. I'll just keep going.
I'm going to keep climbing this precarious ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of this scene and previous scenes, there's Hoji drinking. So cheers to everybody.
There was
for that.
3 Hojis this week.
It's true. Also, we've been drinking for bets a lot this episode.
I also think there's a bit of, like, I don't want to come across blaming Shay for this, but at the same time, she did explicitly tell him, this isn't because I'm ashamed of who you are and what you think and how you act. This is just how long it's taken to like get into this situation where we can have, like, we've just been busy, so we haven't been able to have this dinner. So, like, he got reassurances that who he is and what he talks about and how he acts isn't going to be a problem going into this meeting with the horn or with the pillar. Like, I think he probably had a little bit of a different understanding of the situation before he went into it. And had he been more properly prepared for it, I think he would have conducted himself a little bit more cautiously.
I think so. I think that he is sufficiently given at least words of warning and is like doing his best to give a good impression. But like we've said, this is, and like Aaron said, I think put it very succinctly, like this is like the rules of the road as far as relationship goes. Don't bring up politics on a first meeting, at the very least, when you're meeting parents. And Hilo's the equivalent. It's the only equivalent to a parent that Shay has.
Yeah, but she doesn't see him as a parent. It's her sheethead brother.
But it's the like. Well, it is the shithead brother, but it's also the political head of a big entity and someone that she actively respects above and beyond that. And she also knows how Maro thinks. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she could have done a better job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's, holistically bad, but
and read the room, Maro.
Yeah, definitely read the
That's
room.
fair.
No question.
PJ, I believe the conversation you were talking about where she calms down Maro, like that everything's going to be fine. And I think she's talking to Hilo then.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's just saying like, hey, I wasn't hiding him. He thinks that it's just we're busy.
You're totally right.
I'm sure a similar conversation probably happened behind the scenes, but The specific verbiage you used was that.
Yeah, I was totally thinking about the conversation with her and Hilo, not her and Maro. So that's my bad.
I think all good. So I do want to follow up, though, of course, as kind of the post-mortem on the dinner. Do we think that Hilo is genuinely okay with Maro? And do we think that Shay and Maro could marry if that was what Shay wanted to pursue?
I think this is a very complicated answer, and I think it goes through a huge up and down wave during this section.
Given the pregnancy, yeah, or
and more.
Oh, okay. If you think there's more to talk about, we can save it until it's relevant.
No. I think this is the perfect spot to talk about it at a high level. So I think after this dinner, yes, I think he's still willing to say yes. After this chapter, when her Ispenian roots are being scrutinized by the journalists, by the newspapers, and she's under like intense magnified scrutiny, knowing that he's also half Ispenian, that's not good for the clan. And like immediately after that, and as things are like progressing in that sense, I think Hilo would have said no. But I think that comes back after she's pregnant. I think he'd say yes again. So I think it like yes to no to yes is kind of where I'm at with what I think Hilo would say.
I like that read.
I also say yes. I don't know. I think you would.
Hilo's a big softie. He likes.
Yeah.
Hilo loves love.
She was like,
he loves love.
I agree. Like he's kind of into love.
And he wanted her to say yes, I love him. And he's like, if you don't know, that's not love.
And he married a stone eye in a weird family.
He's a romantic.
Yeah. I feel like if she was like, I really love this guy, I want to marry him, he'd be like, okay.
I don't want to fully open an old wound here, but I think that's why he was fighting so hard for Annie for so long until she turns, and is going to run away. Because he was like willing to accept what I think in any other circumstance Hilo would have considered a loss if it weren't for maintaining that relationship and like that being the way that it could happen. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
But yeah.
If she wanted to, Annie would have been allowed to live on the Call estate
with her lover.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy.
Yeah. He offered to murder the man
previously. And then, ultimately kind of did. But all right. So the final note of the chapter, of course, is Aitmata's move that she's been making and planning for a bit. We get the release of the newspaper and the information dump into the public eye about Shay being an Ispenian asset for a very long period of time and feeding and leaking information. And then we also get an expose from her ex-boyfriend, of course, Gerald, that piece of shit.
I didn't think we'd ever see him again.
Why would he even give an interview like that?
Because he's a dick.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how it ended. I don't remember how it ended.
He's the one who broke up with Shay. Why is he throwing blows after she's already down?
He didn't give a fuck. He didn't give a fuck about her in the first place.
Maybe they paid him.
I was just surprised, like, this hasn't come up earlier. Like, to me, we should not have been surprised by it. Really surprised it hasn't been used already at this point, 2 years into this war or whatever. This seems like bad weathermanning. Not reading the clouds.
Ben, what do you think motivated the specific timing of this release?
Well, I think it's obviously the Shine Factory blow up situation, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, maybe they had the info and were just holding on to it. But it also seems like something that could have been played like from the jump, right when Shay got named Weatherman. So I guess if you're holding on to it for strategic purposes to use against them at a later date, that's fine if you're the Mountain. But
I guess I hadn't actually realized that all of this was entirely like unknown information. Like I didn't realize this was information under wraps. So I'm kind of curious where the leak happened.
Which of course would mean it is time to discuss chapter 27, Purely Practical. Again, touching on some sensitive subjects this chapter. I'm sure all you listeners know, you read along. Ken reports to Hilo with the results of his raid, causing Hilo to reflect on how far his horn has come, and how happy he is to see the financial and military halves of the clan working so well together. Ken leaves as the couple enters to speak with Hilo about their daughter, who had been attacked and sexually assaulted by Espenian soldiers. Though he isn't able to promise them the vengeance they seek, he does offer advice and at least the prospect of future vengeance. Next, the senior luckbringer Hami Tumashan, Councilman Kawi, and 2 other lantern men enter with the request that Shay be withdrawn from her role, which is of course refused by Hilo. So, a lot going on in this chapter. A lot going on in this chapter. Right up front, some additional evidence of the strength and unity at the top of No Peak, which is contrasted with the uncertainty we get at the end.
Like, everything in this entire book and in this world has become more and more and more complicated, and these fringe cases have become less fringe and more integral and more focused upon, and there needs to be a systematic change in the way that Kekkonese culture approaches and views and reports upon and handles external situations that involve other governments, other militaries, other people in general. They are center stage right now for a global conflict, and they're still trying to handle things in the way that they would internally. And I think that's great for a lot of things. I love that Hilo has this forward thinking attitude in this situation with the Uwais of take their money, get as much as you can get, let them feel like they've made amends. This is unforgivable for us, and we won't forget it. I love how ruthless, of all the times that Hilo can be ruthless, this is my favorite example of it.
But he can't really be really ruthless because he has no power.
Hands are a little tied.
Not
do
now.
anything. He's just giving them a
Promise of date.
revenge.
An IOU for violence.
But I think he was smart to say, take all their money anyways while we wait to fuck them up.
Because I think that's a smart move though, because I think Hilo as the Horn, without the sort of diplomatic knowledge that he's gained by being Pillar for as long as he has been at this point, would have been gung-ho about blindly going into something that he had no chance of actually succeeding in, because it was the right thing to do. And maybe it's still the right thing to do by their customs. But learning this bit of patience and knowing that these guys are going to be unguarded at some point and will be waiting to strike.
Or I
think is a good blending of his militaristic and diplomatic positions that he's held so far.
And also his understanding of people is once again at display, and it's reminiscent of his earlier interaction with Lot Jin, where he lets Mr. Ian kind of blow up at him a little bit. And he's like, hey, because of what you're going through, that did not offend me. But he kind of at the same time is don't, that was your one. You can yell at me, otherwise chill out.
Yeah, he's still the Pillar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally get it. It's acceptable in this situation. I understand the way that you feel intensely wronged and you are not meaning to take it out on me, but you do need to chill out, bro.
That was well done.
Bro.
So obviously we've already touched on now through that, PJ, a lot of the troubling situation that the family finds itself on, the limits of the Pillar's powers. But this is just another callback with that pursuit of money, that the Espenians really do put a price on anything, it seems. And unfortunately, to me, this, not an unfamiliar situation. We do see too many things like this in the real world. And also the Espenians carrying out this act on a foreign land where they're supposed to be like, you know, peaceful allies is also something we see with like, you know, it's different concepts. They're not occupying soldiers, but like occupying soldiers taking out, or just soldiers misbehaving, carrying out acts of sexual violence against populations that are not their own. And it's just, you know, it's a heartbreaking chapter and it's a heartbreaking bit of realism, unfortunately, to the world.
And why are the Espinian soldiers even like?
Because they're hanging out on that island. They're like beefing up on that island.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's like they're
they should
stationed
they should keep them on base.
There's like 100,000 of them or something.
Yeah, there's
like-
a lot.
Stay behind your walls.
Yeah.
And we also see this,
Yeah, Yumon Island.
Yeah.
Is the name of the island.
but we see, Aaron, to your point, like it's not just this one instance and then nothing else with the Espinian soldiers. There's all this growing, like we have taking advantage of the Espinian soldiers, you know, running like the phony cash transaction businesses, and Hilo having to step in on the Espinians' behalf as well. And it's like, PJ, like you were getting to, there's like all this complicated nature of the modernization of the world, the Espinians getting involved, and the tricky balance Hilo and the clan have to play now in performing the roles to their constituents, but also managing the geopolitical egos of this superpower.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to reckon with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
World's
Yeah,
just getting
it's
bigger and bigger.
And quickly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
modernizing
super fast.
Yeah. These all seem like very modern political problems.
Yeah, it's definitely bringing us in, like I think I had made mention of last week, into something that's very reminiscent of the Korean or the Vietnam War. It's something that is like indirect foreign occupation, and then also on top of that, like who are they really fighting for? Is this what the people want? And we're meanwhile in basically a third party country that is in many ways supporting both sides via the split of the clan, which makes it incredibly complex.
And then pivoting from that complex situation into another, you know, Hilo, no breaks this day, busy day for him. He has to deal with that situation, and then all of a sudden his chief luckbringers come to him. He's got council person, 2 high-ranking lantern men. They want Shay out of there. What do we think about this confrontation?
It's fucked up.
Ami's
For
out
what
of line.
reason?
Put simply,
Ami's out of line. Woon would never.
Hami's out of line, but also he should know Hilo better too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hilo's
yeah.
always
This just seems like
it's a
bad
bad
idea.
move.
bad move all around.
Like Hilo's been defending Shay from the start, and he's like family first. You know,
Mhm.
And the first guy. Yeah.
calls above everyone. So Hami,
Yeah.
this like
This seems
he's
like
not a very smart master luckbringer.
I know this,
He's
this like made him look bad. Like he
Yeah,
didn't
it's
think
weird
this
that
through.
Hami seems to think he's threading a line here, and just he seems to think he can play it off as like, oh, I'm just opening the door for them to voice their concerns.
Right.
But it's like,
You're
you were
giving
Fist.
the-
You should know how Hilo thinks, even, and like, you know,
Right.
you're a high-ranking person on the financial side of the clan. You should know how Hilo thinks. You should know that's not going to fly, and he's going to see through this.
Right. And him like being there like gives these guys some level of credit, you know,
Mhm.
like that's stupid. I don't know. It was a
Yeah,
bad move.
even
And
in
then-
their own eyes.
Yeah.
At the
Exactly.
end, when they leave, Hilo's like, I need to call Shay, or tries to call Shay or something. Tells someone he needs to call Shay to like warn her or tell her, right? But then we don't see him tell Shay.
Yeah, so the chapter does end with Hilo being like, get Shay on the phone or something to that effect. Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
you took it as him having to warn her, or like just tell her, like, hey,
Yeah.
get your people in line.
To be like, hey, Hami's not on your team anymore.
Ami's up to
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hame in this, he did a pretty good job, I think, of rationalizing his actions and like having pretty good reason. But I think his aura and like the way that he presented himself gave him away a little bit. He felt meek and ashamed to a certain degree of his actions in those in the subtext of like when Hilo was looking at him and reading him.
Yeah, it definitely stood in stark contrast to like when he interacts with Shay, he has no problem with pushing back on her, voicing his opinion, and even like aggressively pushing back on her, getting maybe not angry, but like there's nothing
Impassioned.
hidden. Yes, impassioned. Thank you, PJ. But then here he seems very meek, he seems touty, he seems almost afraid to pit aside to say anything. But even just him being there is pitting aside.
Yeah.
It's a tough look for Hami, this whole chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Get him out of there.
Oh, Hami.
Yep. Do we think he's up to something? Do we think it's just, what he said, his cards are all on the table?
I don't know. I feel like this moment with you or Doru just like really affected Hami. And he's like a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum. But yeah, I don't know. I think that he's just lost confidence in Shay, and he at this point I almost believe that he's like actively trying to undermine her, but I don't know.
For
I'm
the
leaning
best,
towards that.
He's certainly
For the
not
better of
trying
the
to
plan.
keep her around.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had like a particular love of her though. Like their relationship has always been a little bit tumultuous.
Yeah. You're definitely right. Before that, he also didn't really trust her. But it really sealed the deal, like Ben was mentioning with the Dory thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. The last thing I have is
Tough.
sort of it's something I keep touching on from like my history background, I think. And it's Hami's discussion of how people think about this younger generation of Greenbones. And I thought it was very fascinating, very interesting. Hami's aura drew in, and he said with some defensiveness, "It would be irresponsible for me as Master Luckbringer not to point out the consequences this might have on No Peak and on your own leadership, Call Jen. Your grandfather and most of his comrades are gone. Let the gods recognize them. When people look at Greenbones today, they're not looking at the heroes from the Many Nations War. They're seeing young leaders who grew up with wealth and foreign influences and wondering whether they're green enough to defend the country their way their parents and grandparents did."
Kids these days.
Yeah, just very reminiscent of every generation to their children and grandchildren ever.
Hilo's reaction is to call out Doru for his like private actions and the things that weren't publicized and weren't like they show who Doru truly was, but ultimately that's not at all relevant here, because all it has to do is like all that we're talking about is public perception, and that never got publicized. So nobody saw Doru the way that the Call family did. So it doesn't really matter. The argument doesn't matter at all.
I think it's more directly Hilo commenting on Hami's presence there with that argument, because he's saying, like, you saw my grandfather fuck up and you never said anything. You saw Doru fuck up and you were too scared to bring it up then. And not just
That's
his
true.
personal failings, his failings as weatherman, as he was there for decades longer after he should have retired.
But Hame, to his credit, also said that he trusts the way that Shay has been running the weatherman's office. But public perception is important. Is important as well, and that's what we're here to talk about. And how public perception brings down the entirety of the perception of the clan.
Yeah, dig it.
It's an interesting.
It's just tough, especially given like it's a great rebuttal, I think, and you can really feel Hilo's ire throughout this section for even having to have this conversation to begin with, especially considering the immediate comparison to the pedophile that was Doru, given that it was all a face, it was all a mask. So, whew. So we get to chapter 28, the shortest chapter not only of this week, but I think of the entire book. Not that stupid. Barrow and Moot share a conversation with Sora Dio, having made it down from the mountain. They go on a work hiatus for a long time, and during the interim, Barrow angers Moot, but ends up making up with him. Sora Dio comes back with a strong job offer of a whispered name, but Barrow denies it in the end. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. Seems like a ton of information for 4 pages, and it kind of is, but at the same time, no fluff.
No fluff.
Barrow.
Except for Andon.
Andon loves getting fluffed.
Okay.
Is that a term for
It is.
sex?
It is for a blowjob.
Oh, it is?
Fluffing. Yeah.
Oh,
fluffer.
is that what the kids are saying these days?
It's a porn term, actually.
That's why.
Yep.
You whore.
I learned it from New Girl.
Perfect.
Can I get an agenda off here, actually, before
Sure.
we get into anything? Here's my
What's your
question.
agenda?
The Green Bones, we've learned previously, had infiltrated the rat house, right? And that it was dangerous because there was a lot of informers there. Now we know they have a fucking smuggling problem, and that the rat house still exists as an illicit training ground for New Green. Why don't we just fucking crack down on the rat house, my guys?
Maybe there's too much valuable
buttons.
information.
But like when we think 1 and 2 equals, this is where
They'll
they're
just-
getting their guys.
They'll just find another new
Right,
rat
but
house, and then they have to
I thought of
put
that as well.
other
Here's the
informants
question
in
there.
place.
Well, couldn't we just like put a tail, like just watch this, see who comes in and out? Like, I'm not saying we have to shut down the business because then, like you said, they'll just migrate. Now it's a new problem. We have no tabs. I'm just saying, like, I feel like we should have a better handle on this smuggling situation
Could
than
be
we
an
do.
informer spot to begin with, though. That's the other
Yeah,
side
that's
of
what I
it. Is
was
like,
thinking.
yep.
There's
Yeah.
some use.
Everyone's an
to these people.
informer, informing on everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's clearly something going on.
There's something
But
going on.
Sora Dio is in a really rough spot, especially given the earlier revelations that we've seen here. He appears to be having a tough time with the business, especially after having the information about Ree coming up here. Not Ree. Sorry, Ree was the old weatherman, a new guy. Now, Swen. Yeah.
Poor Soradio.
There's a great deal of nervousness that Soradio expresses. And I've been trying to figure out what that might have been from. It doesn't seem to like truly explicitly resolve if it's like something external, like relationship with the Mountain Clan, or if it's like a fear of Barrow's Jade, like understanding that Barrow he's not a greenbone, but he does wear a lot of jade and is a threat. Like I'm curious where this nervousness comes from.
Okay. Dig it. We get some passage of time, too, of course, that's happened over the course of this time. They were supposed to get their jade previously. They need to work an additional 3 months, to kind of get those rocks that they're supposed to earn. But ultimately, we find out that that's not the way that we're going to go here. But focusing and circling on Moot and Barrow real quick, how do we feel about their revenge-driven friendship that they share?
I think Moot is going to die.
Soon.
I just don't think you can't live your life trying to get revenge on the Makes and expect to live very long, especially when you are not green. And then Barrow's revenge to me is kind of like on the whole world.
Mhm.
Like, sure, he has specific, like his fucked up face and his limp. Like, he does not like the Makes, but I think he's smart enough to know that they can't fuck with the Makes yet.
Yeah, they kind of have this bond about being mad at the world and the hand that they were dealt.
Yeah.
Kind of cute.
But
kinda
Barrow's mad
stupid
at the
same
system.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, Barrow's more, Whereas
Yeah.
Moot is very
Mhm.
focused.
on specific people. Yeah.
Sure. I love that. And I think that is ultimately maybe rolling us towards a breakup. It already feels. But this is also an interesting week for Barrow, of course. And I think that it's the first time he's actually shown any sort of restraint or reason and thought throughout these couple of chapters as a character, as though his little bit of age is starting to show. I particularly appreciate the fact that he actually emotionally reflected on his decision for the first time ever with Moot. Like the idea of like, fuck, that was mean. I should be nice to him. He's my only friend.
Does Barrow have empathy?
Barrow is evolving. This was savvy on his part, like not getting harangued into like going after a greenbone. Was
Also that.
Yeah. I don't know. This was good. Good for him. I was like, finally, Barrow's got some brain cells that are working.
Mm-hmm. A single brain cell. That's like, no green bones. I'm not fighting a green bone.
He's learned some lessons.
I think it's not entirely like, there is aspects of this of like self-preservation, but I think there's also a little bit of ego to it a little bit, because the first thing he says is, I'm not taking my Jade off for anything. And this would be a mission that would require being Jadeless, because whoever they're attacking would be able to perceive the aura. So like, there's a little bit of him understanding that he'd be outclassed and he's untrained and like outgunned to a certain degree. But I think there's also a little bit of like that self-conscious ego of, no matter what, I do not want to be without Jade again.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think it's more fear of being powerless again.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that both of those reasons kind of intermingle too, is like, not only, is it going to be stolen, but also what does that mean for me in the long term? This literally took an impossible set of risks for me to get here to begin with, and I'm not willing to surrender that. So whose name do we think was whispered? Do you guys have any inclination, any ideas, any thoughts at all? Do you think it's a small thing? Do you think it's a big thing? Because it's not as though like the only people of whose names are whispered are the calls, but just curious as to where your mind's
I'm thinking
land.
It's one of the mountain sub-families who have been talking to No Peak.
I like that.
I like that. Either that or Shay, like feigning that the newspaper article is the retribution that Maro was going for, and it actually being whispering her name. I could see that being the answer too.
Find out for Shay.
Very nice.
I like all those rationales.
Maybe it was Zapunio, and that's why Soradio's so nervous.
Ooh.
But they're a green bone, right?
Zapunio?
Because Zapunio's not a green bone, is he?
How do we know? Oh,
like
yeah.
They're going after
Well,
I think technically he doesn't wear Jade.
They just said it was that there are green bones around, like the guards. Maybe.
Oh, I interpret it as
the person was green.
Yeah, the person was green.
Got it. I think we don't get quite enough information to for sure know that, but I think that leads us to make a ton of like kind of blind assumptions about, okay, well, could it be Zapunio? Could it be Shay? Could it be, like you said, Cobans or one of the families? So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
One last interesting tidbit here. Barrow's only 20 years old. In chapter 22, is that what we started with? And in also 20 years old. So it's like a huge contrast between these two young men at the same age in their lives, just how drastically different they are and how their lives are.
That's good to know. I didn't put that together.
That is true.
One, just as a comparison to one of whom is a fully native Kekanese person and one of whom was raised inside of a Greenbone family and split heritage between Kekon and Hispania too. So just kind of those layers and levels. Love it. That's a great call.
And that brings us to chapter 29, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it does.
Opening and closing doors. Mr. NK, the Lantern Man, so rudely rejected by Shay in an earlier chapter, is back on Ship Street with a new request of the Weatherman's office. He would like a small loan to purchase some property in Hispania. Shay counters with an offer to grant the man even more resources than he was looking for, so that he can purchase the entire development eventually. We see that her gamble with the Hispanian ambassador has seemingly paid off. After discussing the plans with Woon, after Shay discusses the plans with Woon, that is, Maro calls to vent about the press's treatment of Shay. We then learn that Shay is pregnant with Maro's child, and she departs her office to visit the Temple of Divine Return to pay for a decision on how to proceed. Ultimately, she seems to come to a decision and departs the temple. What do we think about Shay's handling of the Mr. NK situation, and what it shows about how she has grown into her role?
She's still got it. She's good at her job. I feel like this is a good move. And I love her whole attitude the entire time after she knows like Mr. Inky came in and just talked mad shit on her to Hilo. And she doesn't even bring it up. She just offers him like this great deal. And it's just like very businesslike. Good weatherman shit.
I think Woon had a hand in this because he's the one who was like, you can't just give away contracts willy-nilly.
Yeah.
He's definitely that kind of guy. And it definitely has that read of an educated decision that Woon would make. Or like support on or advise on, not make. She's obviously making the call. But
yeah, but
and she definitely like exerts some show of power here, going above and beyond what's being asked for and what is technically legally possible right now, but she has the ins on like what laws are coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
So like she surprises him, and in this negotiation, as it is to a certain degree, gains the upper hand a little bit, or regains the upper hand.
Yeah, and it's just, the savviness of it. She has solutions seemingly like right off the bat. And then also, as you touched on, Woon plays a role in this. They have that just like such a nice interplay where like he closes the folder. She's like, boom, we're ready to go. Here's the offer. And it's just like they're in such concert.
Can't lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. Critical to the operation.
Mm-hmm. And what do we think of her vision of what's to come with Ispenia? Like that students studying abroad, that sort of paying their tuition plot she's got going on. Good stuff.
Thought it was good.
It is good stuff.
Yeah. I said they're kind of like having to go down this road because they've made those decisions already. So I feel like getting people more familiar with the culture is only going to benefit No Peak. Getting more people familiar with Ispenia and making that more commonplace is only going to help her standing in the clan and No Peak as a whole.
I think that it can also be expanded a little bit into a mutually beneficial feeder program for ambassadors of KCON for the Ispenian government, as opposed to directly working with the Weatherman's office on KCON, working for the Weatherman's office in Ispenia for the Ispenian government. Like, I think it creates a funnel. Not right now, not the way that she's laid it out, but I think that could be an expansion of the program that she's proposed.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. Or will we?
Or will we?
Immediately following this business discussion, we get Maro dropping by, phone call for Shay. Very rich text to mine there, I feel like. Aaron, you have some thoughts?
It felt ice cold, baby.
Did feel ice cold, baby.
And it's kind of brutal where she's like, I'm glad you can't feel auras over the phone. Love you too.
Just not even love
she
you
said,
too. Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
Tough.
Yeah, it was tough.
Like, if my guy, I don't think you even need 2 jade stones for that, brother.
Please don't call me at work. Yeah,
You should know.
Yikes.
Looking bad.
It was sweet though that he was checking in and was so upset that they were dragging her through the bed.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good boy.
But then she's kind of like, like, I got it.
Yeah, please don't bother me at work.
Yeah.
It felt
Mommy is
a little
working.
pandering to me.
Yeah.
Mommy is working for
She's
sure.
busy. All right, brother.
It was the verbal equivalent of texting back K.
Yeah.
Would you do an alarming amount for the record? No, just kidding.
Jeez.
I do. My parents do. Like, my parents and I, like, I feel like we're kind of the exceptions to it because that's just how we've always talked to each other. So I'm sorry that it bleeds into my conversation with you sometimes, but I genuinely don't mean it in any sort of passive aggressive way. I'm sorry.
EJ, Cross
Okay.
has an evil grin for the record because this is an
I was just
audio
preparing to say
format.
K the whole time. Okay. Me too, PJ. Me
But,
too.
Our guy Maro, he's doing his best. And this ultimately leads to the ultimate revelation of this chapter, probably. Shay's pregnant.
Sheesh.
Guess she didn't steal the womb to prevent it getting in there.
Yeah, what happened to the safe sex? They're
What
doing
happened
such
to
a
the
good
safe
job.
sex? She said they took precautions.
Clearly
Not
not
enough.
enough.
All right. So
Does she have to keep it?
PJ's thought about this. I can
don't
tell.
think
He's
she
got a
is at
take
all.
coming.
It seems like
We'll get in there.
I do want to explore Aaron's thought. Yeah.
What'd you say, Aaron?
I said, does she have to keep it because she's acting like she has no choice?
Oh, I feel like she went through the whole situation, and without saying it, she decided that she's going to terminate that pregnancy.
I don't know that she can. That they have that medical intervention.
You don't think so?
Can
she
you
couldn't
do?
channel.
Can you do the localized lightning fingers?
Yeah, we bring Andon over.
Oh my god.
Careful, he might miss.
That's dark, bro. That's dark.
Wow.
That's dark.
You both went into it at different times and hit the same note, and they were both terrifying.
But I think
I just feel like the way she was like panicking, and in the Temple of Divine, she's thinking about how all of the like snowball that would happen because she's pregnant, and like it seemed to me like she was never like considering abortion, because I don't think that's maybe an option in this place and time.
I interpreted that totally differently. Yeah. I didn't see it really as panic. I saw her as like systematically like breaking down like every single option and just like where she was at, and just like logicking, like doing a full logic puzzle on the entire situation, like to lead her to the exact answer that she needed to have. And that exact answer is, I cannot have this baby.
You think that was where she landed?
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, being in the Temple of Divine Return with like radioactive levels of jade, that can't be good for your fetus.
But I think to your point, like I'm also kind of thinking about this on just like a book / story / writing level, and like I guess what is the point of getting her pregnant if she's going to just terminate the pregnancy like in 3 chapters? Maybe it's just like purely about depicting that process.
Well,
and like
it could create conflict between her and Maro if she told him.
Sure, that's true.
And they break
I guess
up.
Or if she didn't,
that could like ruin
it
their
could
relationship
internally.
Okay,
And
I'm back
even
on
just
I'm
on
back on board.
Shay's side
He's
create conflict.
Definitely getting rid of this baby.
I don't know. I feel like she's gonna have to like go on a 9-month trip.
Why wouldn't they have abortions?
I don't know what they have. They
I
don't
was
have
just-
cell phones.
Yeah, but it's like they had abortions in the 60s.
It's not a 1-to-1.
I know, I'm just saying.
They have fax machines.
Is she able to perceive
They
the
have
life
hospitals.
inside of her?
I don't know. Hilo could.
Apparently not. She had to
But
do a
we don't know
blood
if
test.
it's. Yeah, that's a good point, Aaron.
It's probably too
Seems
early
like it's
on.
too early.
Yeah.
Good call.
And the baby's not wearing jade.
Is it though? That's something else that I was really curious about, is the mechanics of wearing jade and like
I guess it is.
sharing
It's kind
a
of like
body
touching her
with
yeah.
somebody else.
AFO. I know that this answer comes up eventually. We talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of the way I thought about it. I felt like she was just like working out all the possibilities and was just like, yep, can't do it.
Mhm.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
it's also
There,
like
there are a number of paths.
yeah, she thought about it like she's really like I do agree, like I think it's going to be ultimately the downfall of her relationship with Maro, but she's really doing it to protect him, because my guy would just get ripped in the press if they found out who he was.
Yeah, it
That
seems
could
like he's
happen
not.
anyways.
It's true, but I mean, I think that she's already coming to that realization, and then the baby just like cements that realization. That's why she can't say I love you.
Me too.
I'm like a baby to end the week, right?
I have a question sort of based around that Maro and protecting Maro conversation, but it's almost the opposite, I guess. She has the thought, he couldn't handle that. He's barely even green. And do we think that maybe for the first time that's like being seen as a negative? Like, is she reading that now for the first time as a derogatory
That
thing?
to me, didn't read as like extremely rational and not like a true thought for her, but I do think like I don't think that's how she truly feels, but I do think in this moment when she's thinking through the situation, she's like adding that stuff in as like she's making a pros and cons list.
Yeah, she's trying to find an out.
If he were, yeah.
Right.
If he were incredibly green, there could be an argument that this was like a thing. But yeah.
Yeah. That's just our conversation made me think that perhaps.
That was a good question.
That was going on. But yeah, that's all I have. I think, hit on all my points kind of naturally.
Yeah. I love the way that this ends. I know that we left on kind of an odd note compared to a number of weeks, but I think that it leaves us in a good place with this cliffhanger of what exactly happens with the kiddo. So the question here, of course, is in what is otherwise a fairly dour week without a whole lot of wins. Who won the week?
Make Ken?
Andon.
Oh yeah. Andon.
Andon does
win
the week.
That's
You
true.
get your rocks off, you win the week.
That's true.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I think he won the week otherwise, too, for the record, in that first chapter, because he was doing better as a person. But
yeah, I finally made friends.
We don't care about that.
But very sad he didn't quite fit in, but he never did. Little sad boy. Sad boy done a sad boy.
Just got constant sad boy energy. Yep.
Yeah. I'm sitting here again in my Jimmy World shirt, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I totally get the sad boy angle.
What?
Yeah.
You?
What? Me? Cool.
I think.
All right. Well,
shout out Make Ken, though. You know what I mean?
Make Ken was a good pick.
I think Ben said that already. Someone already said
Ken's
that.
Up there.
Shout out my man, Make Ken, man. You know, Tar constantly fucking up, being like, look at their funny hair. Make Ken just holding it down. Getting married.
He's really figured it out.
Hell yeah, brother.
I think I like that pick. I think it's a good second place. Cool. All right. With that, next week is our 5th episode. We're crossing the halfway point this week where we'll be reading chapters 30 through 36, which seems like it's not a lot, but it is. So I'm excited for next week. So again, 30 through 36. So that's where we'll leave you for this week.
Thank you again to Tim and Andrew for helping us keep the show going. Also, everybody listening, check out the show notes where you can find the schedule, Patreon, previous episodes, websites, social media accounts, secret demonic messages that Crossan leaves in there, all in one convenient location.
I don't like that joke based on previous discussed things.
Hey, someone's behind you, Thomas.
I'm spooked out now, guys. I'm fucking scared.
Kind of look.
I've been looking the whole time.
Ben, do you want to run down the HowlerPod socials? Or Aaron, whomstever.
HWLERPOD. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Etsy, HowlerPod.com. Email us, HowlerPod@gmail.com. Call us. I can't remember the number.
1-800-5
14 no
1540 or something like that.
It's 8.
Go listen to any episode of HowlerPod, you'll find it.
It's on there.
It's like a auto voicemail, so you don't have to talk to anyone. So if you have phone anxiety, don't worry, it's a robot.
Actually us.
All right. And obviously
it's robot versions of us.
Yeah, it's us. And 5 stars only.
5 stars only. Otherwise,
if you don't give us 5 stars only, then
we'll rip that jade stud right out of your belly button.
No, I was gonna say, when you say I love you, we'll say me too.
That's tough. That's worse. I was gonna say,
damn.
I was gonna say, if you don't give us 5 stars only, we will answer the phone when you call.
Anxiety 100.
Also good. And of course, you can find Thomas at High Key Obsessed Pod. I need to have you put this in the notes.
I don't know that there's many High Key Obsessed out there. So if you just search High Key Obsessed, High Key one word, and then you look for the Twilight Zone logo with a pineapple on it, you'll find me.
Yeah. Wherever you're looking. Beyond that, of course, we are Words Whiskey Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Words and Whiskey Show, gmail.com, patreon.com/Words and Whiskey. And we've got t-shirts on TeePublic. Follow those links. Thank you so much for the support. And thank you guys so much for this show. I know we ran longer than intended, but I think it was worth it.
Only you can tell us that.
Bye.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Me too.
There's someone behind you.
Ah!